Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Bex Reads, and today I have a book recommendation for you, all by myself. Say what? Yeah, I know, shocking, right? I didn't have the emotional and mental willpower to reach out to people this month for a collab, so I'm doing it by myself. So today I am going to recommend to you some no steam romances. This is a recommendation that I don't see a lot of on BookTube. I always see like the spicy book recommendations. I know it's probably like something the majority of people aren't looking for, but hey, I have some and I want to recommend them to you. I love a good smutty romance. I really, really do. But sometimes the ones that give me the best chemistry between the characters often don't have any smut in them at all. So I have, I think 7 or 8 recommendations to share with you. Most of these will probably have like a historical element to them, just because I find that's where a lot of the no steam romances tend to fall, is within the historical genre, because, you know, no sex before marriage and all that shit. But there might be a couple contemporaries in here as well. But I have some like fantasy, I have some paranormal, so I have a good range of no spice romances for you. So let's get into it. My first recommendation is what I would say a new adult paranormal historical romance with some magical realism in it, and that is the Paper Magician series by Charlie N. Holmberg. Charlie N. Holmberg in general does no spice romances and low spice romances really, really well, but this is a series of hers that has absolutely no spice. So in this, we are following this young woman named Sione who has graduated, and she has been gifted with the Paper Magician ability, which she isn't all that excited about, because she doesn't think like, what am I going to do with paper magic? There doesn't seem to be like a lot I could do with that defensive wise or anything. But she is sent to the home of Emery Thane, who is a master paper magician, to learn from him how to become the best paper magician she could be. So as she spends time with Emery, she starts to become attracted to him, but he is her mentor, so it's a little bit of a forbidden thing. But one day, somebody from Emery's past comes in and puts his life in danger. So Sione has to take the knowledge that she has gained as a paper magician and travel through Emery's literal heart with her paper dog sidekick to try and save him from this dangerous person in his past. And as the series progresses, we see their relationship progress as Sione discovers that she is capable of more than just paper magic. It had just the right amount of magic for me to give me that whimsy that I love in stories. I loved the sweet, slow progressing romance between Emery and Sione. If you like the student-teacher, mentor-mentee dynamic, but with no spice, here you go. This is done really well. I really, really enjoyed this entire story. I loved the relationship dynamics, and I loved the little dog sidekick. My next recommendation is a new adult fantasy romance called The Beast and the Beauty. But this is the story of a young woman named Sybil, who was once a very arrogant young woman until she got cursed to be a beast. And not just like, oh, she's got like a wart on her face. No, this girl's cursed to be a beast. She's like got fur, claws, a hunchback. She got it all. And the only way that she can break her curse on her and her estate is by getting a man to propose marriage to her. So she spends a lot of her years getting the men who travel through this forest to propose to her by using disguises to make her appear beautiful. However, when that disguise ultimately fails and they see what she really is, they skedaddle away. And so she's pretty much given up hope on getting this marriage proposal until one day this man ends up stuck at her castle. She goes out and rescues him from freezing to death and brings him into the castle. And he actually gets introduced to her as a maid to begin with, because she's wearing like a maid's uniform, a hood to hide her face and whatnot. But they discover that they have very similar interests. They love spending time together and talking about their interests, despite him never having seen her face and him not knowing that she is the like master of this estate. Until one day it happens and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna help you break this curse. The only problem is she can't tell him how to break this curse. She can't tell him, I need you to propose marriage to me. And they end up falling in love. So I really liked this retelling because it was the girl who was the beast. And I love that dynamic of the girl who is the monster, who gets the, you know, handsome guy to fall in love with her. I love that. It always tugs at my heart for some reason. I really liked Sybil's character because even though she was once this arrogant person and she's still like the master of this estate, she does have her insecurities where her looks come in, but she knows she's smart. She knows she's capable. She knows that she's running the show. So she still has that bit of pride to her that she doesn't let her monstrous nature take away from. I really liked that these two characters had common interests. It gave them something to bond about other than him just being like, oh, I like the sound of her voice or some stupid shit like that. Like, they actually had things in common. Next, I have a historical romance for you, and that is The Weaver Takes a Wife, which is one that I saw Crystal at Crystal's Bookish Life. She had mentioned it was like something on her wish list or something like that. And so when I saw it was for free, I thought I would get it. And this was absolutely adorable. This is about Lady Helen, who is one of the most beautiful women in London. She is the daughter of a duke. And she has very high standards for herself that she is not willing to lower for anybody. People often think she is an ice queen because she doesn't care about a lot of people's shit, okay? She's all about what she wants, and that's it. But when her father gets in a spot of trouble with some gambling debts, this man named Ethan comes along, and he is like, I will cover your gambling debts if you give me permission to marry your daughter. Ethan grew up as an orphan. He was in a workhouse, and he actually befriended the man who owned that workhouse, and when that man died, he left Ethan all of his inheritance. So Ethan is an incredibly wealthy man because of the money that he was left to inherit. And he still very much cares for the people he employs because he still works at this workhouse. He doesn't have the greatest of style. He doesn't present himself all that immaculately, which is something that drives Helen crazy. She's like this slob of a guy. His clothes don't fit. He talks with this accent. You can tell he's not cultured. I'm not attracted to him at all. But they end up in this arranged marriage, and she's like, I don't want to consummate this marriage. So he gives her 6 months. He's like, give me 6 months to woo you. And if you don't feel it after 6 months, then we can annul this marriage or whatnot. So they do that. And in that 6 months, they get to know each other. She gets to know the man that he is and the great man that he is. And of course, they end up falling in love. And it doesn't take those 6 months for them to consummate that marriage. But you don't see it, which is why this is on this list. I loved his character because even though he's wealthy, he still has that down-to-earth, working nature that lets him appeal to people that came from the class that he was once in. I also really liked Helen's character growth in this story. She goes from being this a very arrogant, cold, like stoic woman to really seeing that there is more to life than just what's in her little bubble, and she does that through her relationship with Ethan. He like opens her eyes to the world. My next recommendation is another historic inspired paranormal romance, and that is The Vine Witch. So this takes place in a historic French countryside. We follow Elena, who was a vine witch, and she was cursed into the body of a frog. She doesn't know who cursed her, but when this curse is lifted, she wants to go back to the vineyard where she once lived and just help it thrive again. Like, that is her passion. However, when she goes back, she finds out that the vineyard where she was living has been sold to this mortal man, and he doesn't believe in magic, and he refuses to let people use any sort of magic to help his vineyard. There's something going on at his vineyard where his vines aren't producing as well as they once were. So when he sees that she is able to help them, she lets him think that she's doing it through scientific methods when actually she's using her vine witch magic. So she sort of sneakily has to do this behind his back until he finds out and he gets to know her, and then he comes to terms with the fact that maybe magic isn't all that bad. Meanwhile, we're also following Elena, who is trying to figure out who cursed her and why, and try and get revenge on them. I really liked that this had some unique earth magic to it. Like, I've never read a book about a witch who's like specialty is wine before. So that was really interesting to me. I loved the historic French countryside setting, and I really liked Elena's character. She was very smart, but she also had that softness to her. But if you were looking for a witchy book with no spice, maybe check this out. My next recommendation is a bit of a darker one, like not super dark, because let's be real, it's me, but a little bit darker than the others. But it is another historic inspired kind of fantasy contemporary. Anyway, it is Midnight Neverwood. This is a Nutcracker retelling, and in this we are following this young woman named Marietta who just wants to be a ballerina. That is all she wants to do, is dance. However, she is of an age, I think she's like 24 or 26 or something like that, and her parents feel that it's time for her to put away her childish wants of being a ballerina and find a husband, settle down, and all that. And her mother thinks there's no better pick for her than the mysterious Dr. Drosselmeyer, who is this inventor who comes into town. And he is commissioned to build the set for Marietta's final ballet performance. And their families are always having dinner together or whatnot, trying to make them a couple. And on Christmas Eve, Marietta is like taking a tour of this set that this man built, and he like starts chasing her. He's a weirdo. And she hides in the back of this grandfather clock, and when it hits 12, she is transported into Everwood, which is this confectionery magical land where the king of that land offers Marietta the chance of a lifetime to be his personal dancing entertainment at his palace. And she's like, this is all I've ever wanted, so I think I'm going to take him up on this offer. However, it goes down a darker path than she was expecting. And so she's like, I need to get out of here. But she has to get out of Everwood before a certain time. Otherwise, she will be stuck here forever. And she's starting to realize that this place is a lot darker than she expected. And this dream that she had of doing nothing but dancing, that's not exactly what she wants. So with the help of the captain of the guard, he tries to help her escape Everwood, but there are some obstacles and things like that that they have to traverse in order to do that. It isn't the most romance heavy of my recommendations, but there is a romance in here between Marietta and the captain of the guard. I loved the tension between them because there is this push and pull of like, he works for the king and she's trying to escape the king, so they shouldn't even be communicating with each other at all. I love that this was a Nutcracker retelling. This was the first Nutcracker retelling I ever read, and it got me so interested in the Nutcracker because I had never seen a Nutcracker like play or anything like that, and this book totally just enthralled me, and now I'm like, I love Nutcracker retellings. This was one of my top 10 books the year that I read it, and I highly recommend it. My next recommendation is another fantasy romance, and this is Shardless. In this, we are following a young woman named Tally who believes she is just a regular old human. But she lives in this world where she was raised by this very noble fae family. And she befriends their son, and they grow up being best friends or whatnot. And then at one point, she starts experiencing like these moments of magic. And she knows that that is illegal in this world. As a human, she should not be having these moments of magic. So to protect her family, to protect her best friend, she leaves. She totally just distances herself from them at all costs. Until one day, she gets in a spot of trouble, and her best friend ends up having to come to her rescue. And he needs help to find this magical gate that Tally knows the location of, because since she's distanced herself from him, she has taken on odd jobs or whatnot, and she knows where this gate is that he needs to find. So he sort of like wraps her up in helping him. And through them trying to work together to solve some mysteries that are going on in this land, they slowly rekindle their friendship, but she still is keeping the secret that she has this magic from him. So he doesn't know this about her, and he doesn't know that this is the reason why she distanced herself from him. So this is a duology, and the first book, absolutely no spice. The second book, I can't remember if there was spice in it or not. If there was, it was only like one scene. So it's very no spice to low spice, but this first one definitely has no spice in it. But I loved the friends to lovers, my favorite trope ever. So when I can find a friends to lovers fantasy romance that just is unique to me, of course I'm gonna love it. It meshed like magic with technology really well. It almost felt like a steampunk type of fantasy world. And my last recommendation is a contemporary romance, and that is one that I read recently, and that is My Queendom for a Horse. Now, despite what this title says and despite what it looks like, this is not a fantasy romance. This is a contemporary romance. And in this, we are following this woman named Christiana who needs to win this horse race in order to pay off some of her father's debts. She's always had an affinity with horses. When she notices that this horse next to her is looking at her, he's listening to her, and she just thinks, you know, that's weird. Surely he can't understand what I'm saying to my horse. He's just a horse. So after she wins this race, she ends up coming across this horse again, and he is being abused by his owner. So she offers to buy this horse. And this man is like, girl, you don't have any money. So she uses the money that she won from this race that she was supposed to put toward her father's debts to buy this horse. And once she gets this horse back to her farm, she realizes that he's in fact a horse shifter. He was once a very noble Russian prince who got cursed by this witch. So he has absolutely no knowledge of the modern world. He has no money to his name. He can't drive. He doesn't have a job or anything like that. But she's, you know, attracted to him. But she needs to find a way to pay off her father's debts or whatnot. So she ends up reconnecting with her ex, who is a very wealthy man. He owns a bank, and he's like, I will help bail you out of this situation if you give me a second chance. So despite the fact that she's attracted to this horse shifter, she needs to pay off these debts because her horse farm is her livelihood. It's the thing she's passionate about. So she's willing to give her ex a chance because he can offer that to her. Meanwhile, the horse shifter is having these protective instincts for her. He's falling in love with her, and he wants to be the man for her, but he can't do this because he has nothing to offer her. So he sets out to learn as much as he can about the modern world. He sets out to try and find his lineage to hopefully reclaim his wealth. Hopefully there's some family that is still alive where he can be like, hey, I'm your ancestor, give me my money. So that he can prove to her that he can offer her something, and their romance evolves from there. I really liked the protective hero. I really liked the horse shifter. I grew up a horse girly. I still am a little bit of a horse girly, so I just loved seeing the horse shifter element to this. I really loved that this book focused a lot on horse racing because that was something that the female main character was so passionate about, and it wasn't just a surface level thing. It actually felt like this author either did horse racing or she did her research into it. It does have a bit of like a love triangle, but it didn't annoy me the way so many other love triangles do because I knew she wasn't actually in love with her ex. She was just willing to give him a second try, and maybe there would be a spark there for the sake of her keeping her farm. So like I knew that it wasn't an actual love triangle despite the fact that it's like, you know, kind of a love triangle, if that makes any sense. But anyway, this book surprised me is the point. And if you are looking for a contemporary horse shifter romance, here you go. So those are the recommendations that I have for you for no spice romances. Let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these? What is your favorite no spice romance? But if you don't want to comment that but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this video, could you leave me a bell pepper emoji, because that's like the least spicy of the peppers. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, go read yourself a no spice romance. Bye.